The young and the restless spoilers in the midst of the sinister labyrinth that was the abandoned asylum, where Sharon and Phyllis had just begun to grasp the magnitude of their orchestrated nightmare. A parallel and equally twisted drama was unfolding far beyond the claustrophobic corridors of that forsaken building. Within the opulent yet fractured halls of the Newman estate, tensions were simmering to a boiling point, threatening to shatter the family's long-held unity. Summer's reckless defiance, Summer, a force as unpredictable as she was relentless, had reached a point where she felt she had nothing left to lose. Once a charming presence in the Newman inner circle, she had transformed into a formidable adversary whose actions no longer adhered to any sense of morality. Fueled by a burning desire to protect her own ideals, even if it meant crossing the boundaries of decency, Summer had recently taken the audacious step of attacking Victoria in a bid to defend her personal point of view. The incident, which had sent shockwaves through the family, was only the beginning of her dramatic transformation. Her aggression was not limited to that fateful encounter. Behind closed doors, Summer was meticulously orchestrating a cruel and calculated plan to eliminate Claire, an act she deemed necessary to remove an obstacle standing in the way of what she believed was her rightful path. Her plan was as ruthless as it was elaborate, hinting at a willingness to go to any lengths, even murder, to achieve her objectives. Yet, beneath the veneer of cold calculation lay an unsettling truth. Summer's affections, once thought to be genuine, had grown tainted by ambition and deceit. It was becoming increasingly clear that her declarations of love were nothing more than a facade, a ruse to mask her darker intentions. Victoria's relentless pursuit of truth, Victoria, ever the paragon of sophistication and determination, was not one to back down in the face of Summer's escalating treachery. With a keen eye for detail and a determination honed by years of navigating the treacherous waters of high society, Victoria sought every opportunity to expose Summer's true nature. But Summer, with her uncanny ability to hide even the faintest hint of vulnerability, had managed to elude Victoria's probing investigations time and again. The two women had become locked in a bitter struggle, a silent war fought with glances, whispers, and subtle maneuvers in the shadows of family gatherings. Victoria's determination to unmask Summer was driven by a deep-seated belief in loyalty and integrity. She knew that if the truth were allowed to remain hidden, it could spell disaster not just for the individuals involved, but for the entire Newman family. The stakes were high. A single misstep could lead to a cascade of betrayals, fracturing the family's unity and leaving everyone vulnerable to external threats. Kyle's uncertain crossroads amidst this swirling vortex of betrayal and hidden agendas stood Kyle, a man caught in the crossfire of conflicting loyalties and uncertain desires. Kyle, who had long been a stabilizing presence within the family, now found himself trapped in an agonizing dilemma. With two powerful and influential women vying for control and recognition in his life, he was forced to confront a painful question: who truly had his best interests at heart? Every interaction, every whispered conversation in the shadowy corridors of power, left him questioning his own judgment. Was it Summer's fierce independence and unapologetic ambition that promised a life of passion, or could Victoria's measured elegance and unyielding commitment provide the stability he so desperately craved? The pressure on Kyle was immense, as he navigated a delicate balance between personal desire and familial duty. The more he contemplated his choices, the more he realized that the very fabric of his existence was being pulled in conflicting directions. His inner turmoil was a stark reminder that, in the world of the Newmans, loyalty often came at a steep price. The confrontation and family crisis. As the simmering tensions between Summer and Victoria reached a crescendo, it became impossible for the rest of the Newman family to remain on the sidelines. Concerned for the integrity of the family and the well-being of those caught in the crossfire, Nick, Mariah, and even Chance began to voice their anxieties. Whispers of mistrust and growing dread filled the halls of the family estate, prompting Victor Newman, the patriarch known for his iron will and unyielding sense of order, to call an urgent family meeting. Victor's voice, usually a symbol of calm authority, was laced with rare anger as he addressed the assembled family members. He decried the destructive infighting that threatened to unravel decades of hard-earned unity. "Why must we let our differences tear us apart?" he thundered, his eyes blazing with indignation. This isn't the time for personal vendettas or petty squabbles, especially not over a man, or any trivial matter. Our family must stand together, or we are all doomed to crumble from within. His ultimatum was clear: Summer and Victoria were to cease their relentless feud immediately, or risk plunging the family into further chaos. The air in the room was thick with tension as each family member absorbed his words, the implications of his command echoing in every corner. For some, Victor's intervention was a welcome reprieve, a necessary measure to restore order. For others, it was a bitter reminder that in the world of the Newmans, even love and loyalty were inextricably intertwined with power and manipulation. An uncertain future in the aftermath of the meeting, the fragile truce imposed by Victor's stern directive left everyone questioning the future. Summer, despite her aggressive actions and cunning plans, remained as enigmatic as ever. Her true motives were hidden behind layers of charm and duplicity, and while Victoria continued her pursuit of exposing those hidden truths, neither could completely break through the carefully constructed facade that Summer had built around herself. Kyle's inner conflict deepened as he watched the unfolding drama with a sense of helpless resignation. His personal crossroads, once a simple matter of choosing between two ideals, had now evolved into a profound crisis of identity. Every decision he made carried the weight of potential ruin, a testament to the perilous interplay of love, loyalty, and ambition that defined the Newman legacy. Meanwhile, the specter of the mysterious captor from the abandoned asylum continued to haunt the periphery of this already intricate narrative. Although seemingly separate from the internal strife of the Newman family, the dark presence that manipulated Sharon and Phyllis served as a grim reminder of the pervasive influence of unseen forces. Both realms, the decaying corridors of the asylum and the gilded yet fractured halls of the Newman estate, exemplified the age-old truth that the most insidious enemies are often the ones that operate from the shadows, unseen and unchallenged. The battle for control as the days turned into a tense stalemate, every family member was forced to reckon with their own demons. Summer's ruthless ambition, fueled by a potent mixture of desperation and desire for control, continued to cast a long shadow over the family's future. Victoria's unyielding determination to uncover the truth about Summer threatened to expose secrets that many wished would remain buried. And in the midst of it all, Kyle's heart wavered between the allure of passion and the promise of stability, a choice that seemed increasingly impossible to make. Victor's intervention, though momentarily effective, did little to erase the scars left by the relentless infighting. His own history, marked by both triumphs and betrayals, served as a constant reminder that unity was as fragile as it was essential. His command for peace was not just a bid to preserve the family's reputation but a desperate plea to prevent an all-out collapse, a scenario that would leave them all vulnerable to the ruthless machinations of those lurking in the dark, both within and beyond their immediate world. The Newman family meeting, which was meant to be a turning point towards reconciliation, instead became a crucible where every member was forced to confront the raw realities of their fractured relationships. Heated discussions, bitter accusations, and tearful confessions spilled forth as old wounds were reopened, and the promise of unity seemed ever more distant. Yet, in the midst of this chaos, a faint glimmer of hope persisted, a hope that even the deepest of fissures could be mended if everyone was willing to set aside their personal grudges for the sake of a greater good. A glimpse into the abyss as the tension within the Newman estate grew, the true test of character for Summer and Victoria loomed on the horizon. Would they continue down their path of mutual destruction, or would the looming threat of complete familial collapse force them to reconsider their actions? The answer remained as elusive as the identity of the mysterious forces that seemed to be pulling the strings from behind the scenes. For now, the stage was set for a dramatic showdown, a final act where the lines between friend and foe, love and betrayal, would blur into insignificance. The deadly game that had been set in motion was reaching its climax, and every move made by Summer, Victoria, and even the reluctant Kyle, carried the weight of irreversible consequences. In a world where every secret conversation was subject to eavesdropping, every whispered plan could be used as ammunition against them. The price of freedom and unity had never been higher. Victor's stern command echoed in the corridors of both the Newman estate and the darker recesses of the abandoned asylum, a resounding declaration that some lines, once crossed, could not be uncrossed. Whether Summer and Victoria would heed his words or continue their dangerous dance of defiance remained to be seen. But one truth was unmistakable. In a universe where loyalty was constantly betrayed by ambition and where every act of rebellion was meticulously recorded by unseen eyes, the battle for control was far from over. In the end, the fate of the Newman family, and perhaps even the lives of those ensnared in the twisted game of survival, depended on one thing: the ability to reclaim the narrative from the clutches of chaos and deception. As shadows lengthened and the clock ticked inexorably towards an uncertain future, every whispered secret and every act of defiance was a reminder that in the world of power and intrigue, true unity was a rare and fragile gift, one that demanded sacrifice, courage, and above all, unwavering resolve. Thus, the stage was set for the next chapter in this intricate saga, a chapter where the very essence of trust and betrayal would be laid bare for all to see. And as the forces of darkness and light collided in a final, desperate bid for control, the Newman family and their adversaries were forced to confront the undeniable truth. In a world governed by secrets, the greatest threat was not the enemy in plain sight, but the unknown mastermind whose intelligence and cruelty lurked in every shadow, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. In the turbulent halls of the Newman estate, tension reached a fever pitch as deep-seated rivalries and raw emotions erupted into public spectacle. The latest confrontation had been ignited by an impulsive act of aggression, one that sent shockwaves through the family and left many questioning loyalties and long-standing relationships. It began on a sultry afternoon when Summer, whose rebellious streak had long been a subject of concern, lost all restraint. In a moment that seemed to defy all decorum, Summer raised her hand and struck Victoria. The blow was swift and unprovoked, landing squarely on Victoria's cheek with a resounding slap that echoed through the room. For Victoria, it was not merely an act of physical violence, it was an affront to her dignity and a violation of the familial bonds that she had cherished all her life. "How dare you?" Victoria exclaimed, her eyes flashing with indignation and hurt. After all, she was not only a formidable woman in her own right but also the granddaughter of a legacy that demanded respect and honor. In her mind, the transgression was doubly grievous. If Summer had any regard for the sanctity of family ties, such an action would never have been possible. Before the situation could spiral further out of control, Nick appeared on the scene. As the patriarch's trusted advisor and an unyielding force of authority within the family, Nick's presence was both commanding and immediate. With a voice that brooked no argument, he demanded that his daughter, Summer, cease her insolence immediately. "Enough," he bellowed, his tone leaving no room for further dissent. "You are old enough to bear the consequences of your actions, but you must respect those who have paved the way for you. Do not trifle with adults in this family." His words, though harsh, were laced with the heavy burden of responsibility and the hope of restoring order amidst chaos. Summer, for her part, was unrepentant. Despite the admonishments from Nick, she held fast to her belief that she was fully capable of managing the consequences of her own decisions. In her eyes, every action was a step towards asserting her independence and carving out a destiny unshackled by the constraints of traditional expectations. "I'm not a child anymore," she retorted coolly, her gaze defiant as she squared her shoulders. "I'm responsible for my actions, and I will face the consequences, whatever they may be." Her stance was a mixture of youthful arrogance and a calculated determination to rewrite the rules of engagement, even if it meant disrupting the delicate balance of family power dynamics. But the tension did not end there. The confrontation escalated further when, in a twist that few had anticipated, Victoria herself retaliated. In a moment of intense anger, fueled by the humiliation of the earlier slap, Victoria lashed out and struck Summer back. The sound of the slap reverberated through the room, a harsh punctuation mark in an already volatile scene. Victoria's eyes burned with fury, not just at Summer's audacity but at the broader implications of such behavior for the family's reputation. It was a clash of wills that mirrored the simmering undercurrents of a family long divided by ambition, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of power. Almost immediately, the situation took on a near-chaotic quality as two more figures burst onto the scene. Cole and Claire, long-standing members of the family with their own grudges and unresolved conflicts, appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Their faces, etched with shock and indignation, betrayed their readiness to leap into action. With barely a moment's hesitation, they began moving towards Summer, intent on delivering their own form of retribution. Their approach was fueled by years of accumulated tension and the belief that Summer's actions represented a dangerous breach of the unspoken rules that held the family together. The sight of them rushing forward added another layer of peril to an already explosive scenario. Amidst this pandemonium, the only figure who could bring any semblance of order to the madness was Victor. The patriarch of the Newman family, whose life had been defined by both iron-willed authority and an intricate understanding of human frailty, was now the sole arbiter capable of passing judgment on the escalating conflict. Known for his unyielding resolve and a history of quelling even the most turbulent disputes, Victor's reputation as a decisive and fearsome leader loomed large over the gathering. His mere presence carried the weight of generations, a reminder that the unity of the family was a treasure too valuable to be squandered on petty quarrels, even if those quarrels were steeped in personal betrayal. Victor's intervention was both immediate and uncompromising. With a voice that resonated with the authority of a man who had weathered countless storms, he called for an end to the madness. "Enough," he thundered, his eyes sweeping the room with an intensity that left no room for defiance. "This is not the time for personal vendettas or impulsive acts of violence. Our family stands on the brink of ruin if we continue to tear ourselves apart. Remember, you are bound not just by blood, but by a legacy of unity and strength that must prevail over our personal differences." His words were a stark reminder that in the world of the Newmans, individual impulses had always been subordinate to the collective well-being of the family. The admonition was not merely a command, it was a lifeline thrown to salvage the fractured bonds of a storied dynasty. For a moment, time seemed to suspend as the echoes of Victor's words reverberated through the room. The charged atmosphere, thick with anger and sorrow, began to ease ever so slightly as each family member was forced to confront the reality of their actions. Yet, the wounds inflicted by the earlier altercations, both physical and emotional, remained fresh and raw. Summer's defiant stance clashed with Victoria's wounded pride, while Nick, Cole, and Claire struggled to mediate a situation that had spiraled far beyond simple sibling rivalry. Each of them was painfully aware that this was not an isolated incident, it was the latest in a long series of conflicts that threatened to undermine the very foundation of the Newman legacy. In the aftermath of the explosive encounter, as the family slowly regrouped under Victor's stern gaze, the true complexity of the situation began to unfold. The incident had exposed deep-seated fractures within the family, fractures that extended far beyond the immediate conflict between Summer and Victoria. It raised unsettling questions about loyalty, the cost of ambition, and the perilous dance of power that had defined the Newmans for decades. The incident was a microcosm of the larger, ongoing struggle within the family, a struggle where personal pride clashed with duty, and every act of defiance carried with it the potential to shatter long-held alliances. Yet, despite the chaos, a glimmer of hope lingered. Victor's decisive intervention, though born of anger and frustration, was also a plea for unity. It was a reminder that in times of crisis, the family's strength lay not in the individual, but in the collective spirit that had allowed them to weather storms in the past. For now, the mandate was clear: cease the hostilities and focus on preserving the legacy that had been built over generations. Only Victor could deliver the final judgment on this tumultuous matter, and whether Summer, Victoria, and the rest of the family would heed his call remained to be seen. As the echoes of the confrontation faded into an uneasy silence, the future of the Newman family hung in the balance. The scars of this latest clash would take time to heal, and the underlying tensions that had led to such an explosive outburst were far from resolved. Yet, in that charged moment, one truth was undeniable. The fate of the family depended on their ability to rise above their personal conflicts and embrace a unity that transcended even the deepest wounds. In a world where every action was scrutinized, and every emotion had the potential to ignite a powder keg of retribution, the Newmans were left with a stark choice: continue down the path of destruction, or forge a future built on the fragile, yet enduring, bonds of family loyalty.